Let's get some quick reaction from Emily on the Karen Reed verdict.
All right, guys, this was a textbook illustration of how to nail it the second time around. So essentially, defense came in swinging because it was a second trial, right? Like surgery. And here's what they did. They targeted reasonable doubt through all of that missing text messages, all of the digital evidence that was missing. They came in and said, look, we are turning the spoliation of evidence into something not right here. And that's the thing. The jurors didn't need to believe that there was this big orchestrated effort or event. They just needed to believe that something wasn't right with all of those law enforcement officers that were concealing text, missing text, destroying text, per the defense, right? And they used reverse narrative to their benefit. So they painted the defendant saying she's the patsy. She's the one that's getting framed here, right? Victim over and over again. John O'Keefe be damned, essentially. And then they repeated undermining the chain of custody and the scene integrity. Why was his body moved? Look, this is asking so many questions that they didn't have answers to. And they didn't present them as just sloppy mistakes. They presented them as a sort of intentional concealment of evidence. And then finally, they weaponized the arrogance that they framed for all of those protesters that you saw that raised $1 million on her behalf, that hung on every word of the documentary, that traveled by states to watch this, right? They said, look at this. These guys think they're pulling one over on all of you. And that's why they nailed it.
Emily,
so she's their OJ.
Basically.
All right.
And she might have been innocent.
Or that, too.
She might have been innocent.
And Gutfeld will have the whole hour tonight on the Karen Reed trial, so stay tuned.
Live. No,
all right, thank you, guys. But let's talk about the big story we're following here. President Trump still mulling a U.S. military strike on Iran's nuclear sites, but teased he's open to meeting with the mullahs at the White House.
I have a plan for everything, but we'll see what happens. Got a ways to go. They should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet. I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. You may have to fight, and maybe it'll end, very quickly. But there's no way that you can allow, whether you have to fight or not, you can allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, because the entire world will blow up. I'm not going to let that happen.
Katie, have you ever seen a president keep his options so open for so long?
He is keeping options open, but the one thing he's made very clear throughout all of this is that the Iranian nuclear program is going away. It is not staying. He said today that it's going to either go away by us bombing it when they surrender or bombing it if they don't surrender. So this program is going away. It's just a matter of how they decide to do this. The timeline is that the Israelis say if the U.S. were to get involved with the bombing campaign, they could be done with this in a week, which the president has said he wants things to be done quickly. He doesn't want these things to drag out. He's consistent with that. He has a track record in his first term of doing these strikes that are very significant, targeted, and getting out of the way. Soleimani, he did this with the Houthis. He did this with ISIS. There's no reason to stick around and wait it out. So he is in another meeting today with his national security team, and all options are on the table. But if you listen to what he's saying, it's very clear that this is going in the direction of Iran's nuclear program is going away for the better of the United States of America and for the region. And I think it's very interesting that you've heard a lot about, well, we don't want this to devolve into a broader war in the region. The region's not saying anything. The Saudis are happy with this. The Jordanians are happy with this. The UAE is happy with this. And if you look at the images that you see of these people sending in video from Lebanon, from Jordan, from UAE, seeing these missiles flying through the sky, the only people sending those are the Iranians, and they don't want them to be the target next. So the program's going away. It's just a matter of when and how.
Harold, does the president have the support of the Democrats in the Senate and in Congress for a strike against this nuclear facility?
I hope so. But let me dial back, because I think your question is the right one. I would broaden it out. I think, to Katie's point, it's good to be back around the table with everybody. I think the question that the president, who's grappling with the most consequential decision that he's ever had to make, I think, in his life, certainly as president the first term and certainly up to this point, and I can't imagine a more consequential one for the next 3 years. I think the president's asking the question, what if we don't act? In light of all that the Israelis have done and really softening and diminishing the military power, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, their ability to launch rockets at Israel and, for that matter, anywhere in the region. And they've done a lot. The president took an oath of office, everyone does, to protect and defend the Constitution and the country. regardless of whom the president is. Not your campaign dogma, not your campaign platform, not your rally speeches. And this is where it gets really tough. Two, I hope the president's applying the Powell doctrine to this, Jesse, which the late Secretary of Defense and late Joint Chiefs of Staff asked a couple of questions. He asked, do we have a vital security interest? We do. They say death to America. Do we have a clear, attainable objective? Katie laid it out well, and I think the president has laid it out. We want to undermine and neutralize this nuclear capacity of theirs and their ability to launch missiles. Three, do we have an exit strategy, and have we considered the consequences of what may happen? I'm confident the president and his team are doing that, and this gets to the last point. Are the American people in support, which is what your question contemplates, not just Democrats? It appears as we sit here tonight, the president's facing more opposition from Republicans and perhaps some in the MAGA community than he is anywhere else. I hope if the president decides to do something, whatever that might be, and I support him, that he comes before the country at the appropriate time and lays out for us why he's doing it, what we're doing, and how we're going to get out of it. And finally, the Israelis have done a lot. If they had not done all they have done up to this point, I may not be as in favor of going after the nuclear facility as I am. What they've done over the last year, particularly the last 6 months, has been nothing short of astonishing. So whatever the president decides to do, I hope the country supports him, but he's going to have to lay out clearly, convincingly, and forcefully why we're doing it.
Do you believe, Emily, the president's done a good job explaining to the American people the stakes?
Well, I think he's done a good job explaining to the American people that he's protecting American interests. And he's staying true to why we voted for him, which was peace through strength, with the end result of including not ditching our allies and always holding American interests first. And that's why, to those saying that it's not America first, to not even take out Fordow, look, number one, it removes a direct time-sensitive threat to the U.S. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than the trickle sort of policy that Biden had. Oh, here's a little bit of material support over years and years, or the wait and see approach of him and the Dems, which includes, by the way, the priceless toll of the 603 Americans that have died at the hands of the Islamic regime. And for those worried about mission creep, that's what this would stop, right? This is strength without spread. And the biggest result is deterrence. Mess with the bull, you get the horns. That's what message he's been clear on, and that's why people voted for him. And side note, I have many friends in Tel Aviv right now. Katie, I know you do too. One of them, a missile hit the building 80 feet away from his apartment while he was in the shelter. It destroyed the entire block. Somehow his apartment was okay because it was protected by the buildings. He said, we're experiencing what we've never experienced before. But he said, but it's necessary to finish the job and destroy the nuclear facilities in Iran. That is someone that understands the message, understands patriotism, and understands an existential crisis that they're facing.
How do you see it, Greg?
Many different ways, Jesse. I'm glad you asked. First of all, I'm always surprised that people that are so against trade wars are more open to real wars. Isn't that? Don't you find that kind of like like the people that are against trade wars? They always talk about the blowback of a trade war. We talk about it forever. But with real wars, we don't. We don't even know what's next after we decide to do this. And we often don't. That's why we ended up with Iraq and Afghanistan. There is a lot of blowback. At least with trade wars, you can turn off the spigot. You can go back in time and stop it. About the America First thing, that was why Trump was elected. But it's not like he isn't being America First already. It's like been 150 days. We've seen, look at the border. No crossings, no releases. Workers' wages are up. Pared down regulations, increased industry, redefining military readiness and priorities. So he didn't just walk in and say, you know what I'm going to do first? Bomb the goats out of Iran. So the idea, this is what bugs me about the people that are screaming about Trump being hawkish. The idea that he somehow fell under the spell of Lindsey Graham, it's divorced from context. The guy is doing America First every single day. So maybe this might not be a contradiction. In his mind, it might logically make sense in the Trump universe. But that's only if Iran is a true threat. And that's where the question is. In a way, Iran is like an unstable teenager who posts online about wanting to shoot up a school. When do you take their threats and capabilities seriously? Like, do you know what his capabilities are? Does this kid have guns at home? We don't know. So you have to weigh the costs, is like what Harold said, that the cost of inaction is an action. It's an action. So America First has two lanes. America First, and what are the options in the Middle East that are best for American interests? So they kind of cross. And then going back to what you said when you asked Katie, we elected Trump for his instincts and his gut instinct. And, you know, maybe he knows a way to defend our staunchest ally without sacrificing our sons. And he doesn't do things that he thinks will end badly. That's one thing we know. He jumps in when he sees a path and I think he senses Israel has done the work. And I think that's another thing that he respects Israel for, is that they always do the work. He likes winners. And I think he sees this event, Israel, as a winning bet.
I think you're right, but in fairness, I think you're right. Without Israel having done all the work up to this point, I think a lot of people would not be as open-minded to this. And remember, they support Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. They have done, it's not just a kid at home putting stuff up on social media. They have done, not only on social media, they've acted on some of it through their proxies. So
it was a rough analogy, Harold. It wasn't the real thing.
Don't nitpick the analogies,
My
Harold.
goodness.
Come on.
I'm done here.
Let me write that down.
I have things to do.
And you can argue you can take Israel completely out of it, and it's about U.S. interests.
I want to make an analogy about Karen
Reed.
Reed.
Okay, and Greg will have Karen Reed the whole hour. Again, no commercials, the whole hour.
Yeah.
Up next.
Don't go driving with her.
Arnold stuns the ladies of The View after terminating anti-ICE talking point. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.